So why a paradox is so important? Well, first of all, what is a paradox? What is it? It's not two doctors, okay? What is a paradox? Well, basically, a paradox is when you have two statements or two things that are apparently contradictory, which are trying to articulate something bigger than they can on their own. Okay, so when you look into, in order to have this relationship, I had to let it go. How can you have a relationship and let it go? Well, that's a paradox. But those of you who've ever gone through that type of an issue know that sometimes you have to let go to have, and even though that makes no sense, the same thing in the network economy, you have to feed the network first. You don't take. So the idea here is givers get. Okay, now how can a giver get? Well, see, that's a paradox also. And sharing is having more is another paradox. And so what's going on, and if you look at in network science, you get a thing called the strength of the weak tie. Now, how can something be strong and weak at the same time? Now, usually what's going on here is that people are attempting to say something that's much more significant, but there's no word for it. So they put two words that apparently contradict themselves, that if they're looked at, mashed together from a meta perspective, they're actually showing you some new insight. Now, I think it's really horrible that they call it strength of the weak tie, but because scientists didn't want to add a new name, or the guys who created this whole network science didn't want to add a new name, they put it together. Yet strength of the weak tie is so important because it has you jump from one cluster to another cluster, from one hub to another hub. And so when you start to see things that seem contradictory, when they start to seem contradictory, then you can look and say, what is the higher truth? What is a perspective that's higher than this that you cannot see by looking at either of these individually? So when you see this and you get a little confused with a paradox, step back, look at the higher level of it, because there is an insight that's perhaps there should be a new word. In fact, maybe you make a new word, okay? I mean, quite often, so you want to look at the meta level of this. So, for instance, like, one of the words I made up, and it really has to deal with what I call, and I made the word up, it's not even a word, but it's, see, one of the things I found with consultants is that when they try to work with a company, they want to be the star. And the problem with that is the company's the star, they're not. And so there's not a word for somebody who works with the company. It can't be the star because the company's the star, or the company people that are the star, not them. So I came up with the term empathy and authority and put them together, emthor. And an emthor is somebody who has empathy for the situation and also has a level of authority to speak and the others listen to, while at the same time making the other person a star. Now, I didn't try to make a paradox here. I created a new word for it, and now I believe it will become a real word, because emthor is essential if you're a consultant. As soon as you get out over trying to be the star, you're going to ruin the relationship. And in fact, it's a fractal in nature, in the sense that, one person can be an emthor for another, who can then be the star in that, and then they become the emthor for another person. And you start to see that this word emthor has to exist, because it's a distinction that needs to be made if you're in any type of consulting or any type of relationship where the other person really should be the star. So when I'm talking about the importance of paradox, when you see a paradox, stop, look back, say, now, what is this it's trying to say? What is something bigger than this? And then you may want to make up a new word, but whatever it is, flags should go off, bells should go off, because something insightful is attempting to be said that's greater than either the words that are contradictory each other are trying to do. So that you just have to study this and think about it, think about it, think about it. What is creating this paradox? Something bigger. Create a new word. That's how the dictionary gets bigger. I learned from Bucky a long time ago that the bigger the picture, the more accurate your prediction. There's nothing in a caterpillar, if you just study a caterpillar, will ever tell you about scenario butterfly. So my entire life, I am working as much as I can to be a comprehensivist. That is interested in everything, so I can make better choices, better decisions, and have a better perspective. What can I do for you?